I think there are a lot of issues with this team. I think it's not just the defense. I think the offense has a lot of personality issues. It sure seems like A.J. Brown and Nick Sirianni can't coexist, and I think the odds of them both being in Philadelphia for week 1 next year are getting longer and longer with each passing day. And you look at this team, and maybe they can figure things out in the next 2 weeks. Right now, I mean, it's pretty much a guarantee they're going to have to go to Tampa Bay or go to New Orleans in the wild card round. Like, they aren't going to host a playoff game. What we saw today might have been Jason Kelce's last game in Philadelphia, might have been Brandon Graham's last game in Philadelphia, might have been Fletcher Cox's last game in Philadelphia. And the way they performed, I mean, anybody who thought, hey, the schedule's tough, hey, they're still trying to figure it out. I just think back to the 10-1 start where they weren't playing well, and the thought was, well, when they figure it out, look out because they'll be unstoppable. That might have been them figuring it out. Like what they did the first 11 games might have been them at their best. And what we're seeing now is them, really just grinding. And I thought the offense played all right today, but when the defense, allows the Cardinals to stay on the field for 40-plus minutes, you're not going to win. And for a team that had Super Bowl aspirations, it's starting to look like now, I'm sure they'll still be favored wild card weekend wherever they go on the road, but I don't think a lot of people will be confident that they can go on the road and win a playoff game anymore.
And that was going to be one of my first questions is I assume it will still be Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay had a bad loss today to the Saints, but the Bucs just need to win one of the final 2. And they have a game in Carolina next week, which you're going to like their chances in Carolina to win that game and to still win the division and make the playoffs. So I think it'll probably be the Bucs. And are you going to feel confident about that? Well, I mean, if Baker Mayfield plays the way he did today, you're going to feel okay about it. But you can't have any confidence in this defense. And I'm glad you brought up the time of possession. They were dominated in time of possession, 2-1 by the Cardinals. There was a 72-47 play difference in this game. The Cardinals averaged 6.2 yards per play and 5.5 yards per carry. 6.2 yards per play, that's like an elite offense if that's over the course of a season, if you're averaging 6.2 yards per play. And the offense, it didn't have a lot of opportunities, to be fair to the offense. And it's not like the offense was bad, but they are also not pushing the issue. They're also not, forcing teams to become one-dimensional because they're playing aggressively in the first half and playing with pace in the first half to put offenses in a situation where their defense can be better and be, in a more predictable situation. And so there's not a lot of complementary football happening here either. And so even if the offense on its own is fine, and it is fine, it has been fine, then they're still not doing what they need to do to help out the defensive side of the ball, which at this point in time is a train wreck. And you're right. I don't think that the division is up for grabs for them anymore. The Cowboys play the Commanders next week. The Commanders are suddenly in the number 2 draft slot. They cannot win that game against the Cowboys. And so I think the Cowboys are in just a great spot here to win the division and to probably have the number 2 seed as well. And so, yeah, it's a rough spot for the Eagles, but again, they're going to make the playoffs.
And you never know, right? And yeah, I look at it for next week, and you're right. The Cowboys, there should be no chance they lose to the Commanders. And if you're the Eagles, do you even bother playing your starters against the Giants? I know there's a chance they could technically get up to the 2 seed if both the Lions and the Cowboys lose. I think the Lions have the Vikings next week. But I mean, if I were the Eagles, I would tell Jalen Hurts to sit down. I would play Jason Kelce 1 snap so he could keep his consecutive game started streak alive. And I would rest up and start preparing for the winner of the NFC South come wild card weekend. And I think the Eagles offense, even though it hasn't been terrible, philosophically, I think they've taken a huge step backward from last year. And I know people in Philadelphia love to run the football. There were chants and signs, and everyone was going nuts about it last week. And it did work. They were successful in the second half running the football. But, Brian Johnson, the offensive coordinator, had an interesting take this week when he was asked about it. And he said, well, with how great our team is on third down, we try to play for third down. We try to get in these third down situations. And if that's what you're doing, if I were Nick Sirianni and I heard that, I'd tell him to box up his things and go home. If your offensive coordinator is playing for third down and wants to be in third down situations, and I know the Eagles are a top 3 third down offense, and I think that's an indictment on what Brian Johnson's done, that they keep ending up in those situations. If they're playing for third down, you're not winning football games. That's just not how you do it in the modern NFL. And we saw that again today where the 2 drives where they didn't score, it's It's because they decided to start running the ball, and they got behind the sticks. I mean, the Cardinals gave them an opportunity with an onside kick with about 5 minutes to go. Hey, go take the ball 30 yards and score a touchdown. The Eagles ran the ball 3 times and kicked a field goal, and that's why they lost. I think there's a philosophical issue with this offense right now, and I think it's starting to grate on a lot of the players, too, who are getting frustrated.